DreAllDay.com.
What's up, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. So we're here. Today is the opening night of the 2013-14 NBA season. And since I put out the top fives list, my top five at every position, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, I see that a lot of you really interested in talking about the league and what you think is going to happen, and a lot of people left comments in addition to talking about that, asked me to do videos on other stuff. So I think since the season starts today, it's only right that I put out a quick preview of what I think is going to happen this season. Basically, I want to talk about who I think is going to be the top teams in each conference and where I think everybody's going to end up finishing, and then my prediction for the whole season prediction, my postseason prediction. So let's start in the Western Conference. First thing about the West is that there are a bunch of teams that I think, there's 6 teams that I think are in the mode of they better at least make it to the second round or something isn't right. And that would be the Spurs, the Rockets, the Thunder, the Grizzlies, the Clippers, and the Warriors. So all these teams have been second round teams at least once in the last couple of years. So they all should expect, and they all pretty much expect to keep going. I think all of them are improving. I think the Thunder kind of got worse because they, of course, they don't have Westbrook for the first month, but he'll be back. But they kind of, I really think the Thunder missed their boat when they traded James Harden. I mean, everybody knows about that trade. They kind of messed themselves up. They had a good situation there, a great situation. They traded James Harden when, I don't know, maybe they could have traded one of those other contracts at Baca or Perkins or somebody to stay under the cap, but they traded that guy to stay out of luxury tax, rather. They traded Harden, made Houston into a team. And then we go to Houston. Houston's just had a great run. 2 straight years, 2 big free agents, Harden and Dwight. I mean, both of those guys is, no matter what your opinion, they both top 5 at their positions. We can at least agree on that. Pick both of those guys up. They still got Lynn. They got Patrick Beverly. They got Chandler Parsons. They got Omer Asik. I think they're going to have to trade him, though, because he's too good to be coming off the bench. And he's going to make $15 million next year. And that last year, that deal they gave him. So I think he might get traded. Jeremy Lin's another guy who might get traded, I think, because he got the similar contract with Houston. But we'll see about that. But I think Houston is really good. Of course, you got the Clippers. They got a new coach in Doc Rivers. They picked up J.J. Redick. They picked up Jared Dudley. They pretty much did they lose anything? They didn't really lose anybody who was really big for them last year. I think Odom's off the roster, but they pretty much kept everybody else except for the trades. They traded Butler. They traded Bledsoe. They, of course, got rid of their old coach. Golden State picked up Iguodala, which is a huge pickup. Iguodala is one of those great glue guys because he does a little bit of everything. He's a good defensive player. They picked him up. Stephen Curry's going to get better. Hopefully they get Bogut for a whole season. They lost David Lee in the playoffs for a lot of the playoffs last year. Hopefully they have him. Mark Jackson's a great coach. They got a really good team, Golden State, and I'm going to get into what I think is going to happen with them in a second. The Grizzlies are the one team I think might have took a step back, even though they didn't lose any players. They picked up Mike Miller, who's a great shooter, but at the same time, I feel like they kind of missed their window, the Grizzlies. They had that 2 years when they was really good. They got swept by the Spurs last year, which I don't think anybody saw coming. Me and a couple of my homies was talking on the phone last year when the conference finals was going on, like, yo, if the Grizzlies make the finals, that's going to be tough for the Heat to beat. Everybody thought it might be the Grizzlies against the Heat, but then the Spurs came in there and just bulldozed them motherfuckers. So I don't know if the Grizzlies got a chance. I think Zach Randolph is starting to get on his way. He's starting to be on his downside of his career physically. It's hard for him to create shots against the bigger guys. Like, he did good going against somebody like Blake Griffin, who he can overpower and who's not really as physical on D. But when he went against the guys from the Spurs, he couldn't really bully them, and they were a little bit longer than him, so he couldn't get his shots off. He had a really bad series against them. I think the Grizzlies might be the team to bite the dust in the first round, but it's really hard to say. They still got a great team overall. They didn't, like I said, they didn't lose anybody. They just picked up Mike Miller. I just think the time is going to hurt them a little bit. Other team that I said the Spurs. We talked about the Rockets. We discussed the Thunder a little bit. The Thunder, I think Kevin Durant's going to average a crazy amount of points, probably the most anybody's averaged since like T-Mac and Iverson was in the low 30s, like 32, 33. I think he can be around that for the whole season, even when Russell Westbrook comes back. As anybody who's watched him in the preseason knows KD he just keeps getting better, and everybody already knows that. I mean, no need to keep going in on him. We already know what Kevin Durant can do. He'll probably lead the league in scoring this year. Even though Melo clipped him last year a little bit, I think he'll get it this year. And we said Houston, that was the Thunder, Spurs, Clippers, Grizzlies, Golden State. As far as the Clippers go, I mean, I like their team. I like Chris Paul, of course. I think he's the best as far as playing the point guard position, at least in the Western Conference, we can say. Him and Tony Parker are two of the best. You know, I think Chris Paul is the best at the point guard position, even though Tony's got the rings. I think Chris Paul's the best. The thing with the Clippers is it's hard to see how far they're going to go with those two big men, with DeAndre and Blake, who are great with the, of course, catching the alley-oops, and Blake's going to get you around 20 points a game, 10 rebounds. DeAndre's going to get you some block shots, and he'll make a few dunks. He can't shoot free throws, but defensively, those guys are not very good. And people look at a shot blocker like Serge Ibaka and DeAndre Jordan, they assume these guys are just super defenders, but they're really not. They make good plays on defense. Like Serge Ibaka and DeAndre Jordan, both of them block a lot of their shots from the weak side when they're helping. So like somebody else's man is shooting and they come and block it. They're not like guys who, I'm going to guard you one-on-one and you try to shoot and I'm going to block that. That's not where they get a lot of their blocks. Like DeAndre Jordan and Serge Ibaka both get scored on in one-on-one action. I mean, I'm not saying they be getting killed, but they're not superb one-on-one stopper defenders. Like, if you look at LeBron James, the person he guards doesn't score on him much. You look at the average numbers and the player efficiency rating of the person LeBron's guarding, their numbers are very low. When you look at those guys, they're not like stopping you one-on-one. They get in their blocks and help position. So people think the shot blockers are great defenders, but they're not really that great. Like Marc Gasol was Defensive Player of the Year. He's not really a shot blocker like that. He's just where he's supposed to be. His rotations and everything like that, and his positional one-on-one defense is pretty good. So I don't know what the Clippers are going to do defensively. I think they might have trouble defensively if they got to face a team like the Grizzlies, a team like Houston, who has Dwight down there now, and just that attacks the rim. Any team that attacks the rim. The Thunder with KD and Russell Westbrook attacking the rim. A team like the Grizzlies who can go inside to their big guys who go at the rim. The Spurs with their two big guys going to the rim, and all their players, Tony Parker, Ginobili, those guys attack the basket a lot. I think they're going to have trouble with teams who attack the basket. Clippers, the only team I think the Clippers could really do well against right now, a team that's not going to kill them at the paint, will maybe be Golden State, and that's if Bogut isn't healthy, which is something we as a 50-50 thing all the time with Andrew Bogut. But they're probably the only team that's not going to destroy you at the rim because their best players, Curry, Klay Thompson, those are guys who are more shooters than attacking into the big man's chest. But again, they got David Lee, who's an all-star, and Bogut, who can get you 20 when he's healthy. But we'll see what happens. So as far as the West, the other two playoff teams in the West, so those are my top six in some order. Clippers, Spurs, Grizzlies, Houston, Thunder, Golden State. And I think the final two teams, I got to put the Lakers in there. I'm not going to bet against Kobe. I think when he gets back, he's going to push that team same way he did last year. Steve Nash, I think he's on his last leg. I think he's done after this year. I think he'll retire. He's 39, and he's already getting hurt before the season even started. I think his body is just saying enough is enough. I think he'll be done. Pau Gasol, a lot of people hate on Pau Gasol. Either you hate him or you love him. I think Pau Gasol is still one of the best big men in basketball, period. He's the best player in the history of Spain, his country. And I think he's going to get back to averaging around 20. I think he'll probably be all-star this year if he's playing at center, which, according to the stats, he actually does better playing center than he does playing power forward. So I think he's going to be good, and they're going to have to ride him because the Lakers don't have that much talent this year. So I think between Kobe and Powell, they're going to get into the playoffs. I think the Lakers will get that 7-8 seed. And the last spot, my head says the Portland Trailblazers might be the team for that last spot. My heart wants to see Kevin Love and the Timberwolves make it into that last spot, but I'm not sure they can stay healthy. But they stay healthy with Pekovic, Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love, who's a player that I really like. I hope they get into that last spot, but we'll see. So I'm going to go with the Lakers, and for that actual last spot, I'm going to go between those three. Portland, Lakers, Wolves, I think 2 of the 3 is going to make that last spot. So y'all can tell me who y'all think is going to make the last spot. And tell me if you agree with that top 6 between the Clippers, Spurs, Grizzlies, Houston Rockets, OKC Thunder, Golden State Warriors. I think that's a clear top 6. What order do I think they'll finish in? I think the Spurs, the Clippers and Houston are going to be the top 3 teams. And coming out of the Western Conference, I'm going to have to say the Spurs didn't lose anybody. They picked up Bellinelli. I think Kawhi Leonard, a lot of people are saying he's going to be like the next guy to step up. Tim Duncan's going to keep doing his thing. Tony Parker is nice. Then you got the Clippers and Houston. I would love to see Houston make it out of the West. I would love to see Harden and Parsons, Ashik, Dwight Howard, and those guys make it out of the West. But I don't think they got enough going against the Spurs or the Clippers. So I think it's Spurs against Clippers for the Western Conference Finals. We're going to come back to that. Now, the Eastern Conference, of course, we got the Miami Heat. Got LeBron James, the best player. They go off for the three-peat. This will be their 4th straight year making it to the finals, which is a hell of a grind. All those games they play, and they play like a whole extra. All these playoff games that Heat have played have been like a whole extra season tacked on to the 3 seasons they've been together, compared to all these teams who aren't going that deep or teams who didn't make the playoffs at all. And you factor in the intensity of the NBA playoffs. It's like playing a whole nother season. So instead of 3 seasons, they really played 4. And they got 2 titles out of it, made it to the finals the other time and won 2 games. So I think the Heat, of course they're going to win their division. Of course I think they're going to be in the top. I'll say they'll be in the top 2 in terms of where they finish in the conference this year. Now the Chicago Bulls, we know the Bulls are back. Derrick Rose back. He's looking great. Everybody's catching Derrick Rose fever. Derrick Rose is nice. Chicago has a great team. They got Butler, they got Dang, they got Gibson off the bench, who's great on D. Joakim Noah, who's a great all-around guy. Boozer, who's going to get you 17, 18 points and 8 rebounds a game. Of course, their hard-driving coach. They got a damn good team, Chicago Bulls. I think Chicago Bulls, of course, they're going to be trying to kick the Heat's ass. And I think the Bulls will probably end up with either the number 1 or number 2 seed between them and the Heat. And I think the Heat, coming with this 3rd year, I think the Bulls will probably push for that number 1 seed. Same way they did it 2 years ago when Rose got hurt in the 1st round against the Sixers. I think the Bulls will get the number 1 seed in the East probably, just because the Heat, I think the Heat will kind of simmer down a little bit. They'll put it on low heat during the season because they know what they got to do in the playoffs. So they'll probably seed that number 1 seed to the Chicago Bulls. Then in the East, the other 2 teams that I think are contenders, of course, you got Brooklyn with all their new guys. They got a lot of old guys. Pierce, Garnett, they're older guys. And Jason Terry, if you want to factor him, he's an older guy. Joe Johnson's an all-star. Darren's an all-star. Brook Lopez an all-star. Reggie Evans a great rebounder. A new coach in Jason Kidd. That's a unique team they got. They definitely will be somebody to watch. I think Brooklyn is the 3rd team that matters, and of course you got the Indiana Pacers. Now here's the thing about the Pacers. The Pacers negated Heat a hell of a series twice in the East playoffs the last 2 years. They had them down 2-1 both times. They had them down 2-1 2 years ago. Then Dwayne Wade, he got his knee drained. He came out and dropped 40. Then last year they had them down 2-1 again, pushed them to a Game 7. Then the Heat, kicked their ass in Game 7. Roy Hibbert was just killing the Heat because the Heat didn't have nobody his size, but now the Heat got Greg Oden. And I'm a big fan of Greg Oden. I hope he stays healthy. I want to see him play. If he can get a Heat something, if Greg Oden can get a Heat 20 to 30 minutes a night, that would be fucking huge for the Heat. Because they haven't had a big man all this time. If he can get him 20 minutes a night, that'd be big. Especially going into the playoffs. If they got to play a team with a tough big guy like Brook Lopez, like a Roy Hibbert. Even a Joakim Noah, he don't even have nobody his size that plays. They got Anthony, but he don't really get playing time. So I think Greg Oden will be big for the Heat. But the Indiana Pacers, the thing about them, I just heard today that Granger's out for another 3 weeks. But Paul George, of course, emerged as the man on that team. Roy Hibbert is Roy Hibbert. I think he'll probably win Defensive Player of the Year this year after all the attention he got last postseason. That's kind of how it happens. A lot of these awards is reputation awards. These guys ain't out there. People who vote ain't out there reading stats. They just go off what they think. But anyway, the Pacers have always given the Heat a tough series, but the Pacers can't fuck with the Chicago Bulls. For those of you who are Pacers fans, I'm sorry, but y'all know. A couple years ago when Rose was healthy, when the Bulls made that run to the conference finals and the Heat beat them, Derrick Rose was fucking the Pacers up, and the Pacers have not added anyone to their roster to guard Derrick Rose. There ain't really nobody who can guard Derrick Rose one-on-one. And he was destroying the Pacers. And they played him in the preseason this year, and he was destroying them again. So I'm going to say The Pacers are a contender, but if the Pacers end up having to play the Bulls in the playoffs instead of playing the Heat, they're going to get killed. It's not going to be a close series the way it has been against the Heat. I think if they play the Heat, they can get them a battle, but they just don't match up well with the Chicago Bulls. The same thing with Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn can give the Heat a battle just because of the way the team is structured and because they got an all-star 7-foot guy in Brook Lopez, and the Heat has nobody that size except Greg Oden if he plays. There's an asterisk next to Greg Oden because we have no idea what anybody's going to get from him. He hasn't played in almost 4 years, so who knows? We can't really bank on Greg Oden for the Heat. But Derrick Rose is pretty much unguardable by anybody on the Pacers and anybody on Brooklyn, save for maybe Darren Williams. I'm not sure what Darren can do defensively. I know he's good offensively, but defensively, I mean, last year they lost Game 7 to the fucking Bulls with Nate Robinson. And I really expected Darren to come out and try to go for 35-40 that game, and they lost. I didn't, in my heart, I knew the Nets weren't going to win that game, even though it was at home, because I just felt like the Bulls wanted it more. But really, Darren Williams was the best player out of everybody on either team, in my opinion. So how they lost with him out there, I don't know. I know he wasn't 100% healthy all season, and he even had some injuries this preseason. But I don't think there's anybody in that top 4. The only guy on those top 4 teams who can match up with Derrick Rose is LeBron James. So I think it's going to be the Bulls against the Heat in the conference finals. We're going to come back to that. As far as the other playoff teams in the East, the New York Knicks. I don't know what's going on with the New York Knicks. They picked up Bargnani, who's a good shooter, but he makes $10 million, and he's not helping. He's not really helping them do anything different. They had Novak, who's a guy who can spot up and shoot. He makes way less money, so I don't know why they traded for him. Basically, they got to spend more money to get a guy who does pretty much the same thing, so that makes no sense to me. Amari Stoudemire was one of my favorite players when he was healthy, man. He was dominant. Those years in Phoenix with Steve Nash. Watching Amari Stoudemire, that was like a show. It was like watching LeBron or Vince Carter, just the power forward version or the center version. He was so explosive and dominant. Couldn't nobody guard that man off the bounce from the high post. But now, who knows? His knees might be completely done. Kind of like what happened with Steve Francis and Penny Hardaway. When their knees went, Gilbert Arenas, Tracy McGrady. Their knees went and they just kind of completely fell off the map. That seems like what's happening to Amari. Hopefully he comes back and he can be something. Because Amari Stoudemire is a hell of a scorer when he's healthy. Even though he's not as explosive as he used to be, when he's healthy, he is tough to guard defensively. He'll get you 15 points a night when he's healthy. But who knows if he is. Then you still got Tyson Chandler. You still got Melo, who it has been shown Melo is better playing a 4 than he is playing a 3. But then you got Bargnani, who's either a 4 or 5, and Amari, who's either a 4 or 5. Tyson Chandler, who's a 5. And mind you, every name that I just mentioned, all 4 of these dudes is making over $10 million a year. So I have no idea what the New York Knicks are doing. So if you're a New York Knicks fan and you know what they're doing, please explain it to me. And then we heard how J.R. Smith's brother made the team for the Knicks. This is the thing about that. I never even seen J.R. Smith's brother play. I don't even know what position he plays or what he does. I know he's a guard. J.R. Smith, when you in preseason on training camp or workout with a team and they have preseason games, the coach is going to play the guys who are trying to get on the team so he can see what they can do. So if you're not playing a lot and you one of the guys that's trying to make the roster, that's not a good thing for you. Now, let's say Melo, one of the all-star guys, don't play a lot. Nobody cares because we already know what they can do. We already know they on the team. So when you in preseason, let's say you trying out for a team, right, and they have an exhibition game. You never played on this team before, but you're trying out. They got an exhibition game and you don't get no playing time. That's not a good sign for you because the coach should put you in a lot so he can see what you do in the game. Now, J.R. Smith's brother played the fewest minutes of anybody on the Knicks training camp roster in the games. He wasn't even getting in the games. So the coach couldn't even see what he could do, but then he made the roster. Like I said, I never even seen the dude play. I mean, the Knicks are, people got to understand that NBA teams are like companies. It's like the KFC down the street from your house. They can hire whoever they want. So I don't care. It's not like he took the spot directly from me. I wasn't on a roster. He beat me out for the spot. But I have no idea what the Knicks are doing roster-wise. It makes no sense to me. I think the Knicks will probably end up with the 5 seed unless one of the lower teams comes up and steals the 5 seed from them. Then they would get the 6 seed. The Knicks are not getting out of the first round. No way. The second round, the first round winners in the Eastern Conference are very clear. Bulls, the Heat, the Pacers, and Brooklyn. Barring a catastrophic injury to one of those teams' rosters, those are the 4 teams winning in the first round. The other 4 teams don't even matter. I mean, the Pistons will be fun to watch. Drummond is a beast. I didn't think he was that great coming out, but now, after seeing how he played last season, he's a beast. Greg Monroe is one of my favorite guys. Those 2 guys down low will be a great 1-2 punch, but then they got Josh Smith, whose strength is playing the 4. He's another guy who's been a small forward, but he's better when he plays the 4. Kind of like Carmelo Anthony, same way. We don't want Josh Smith shooting jumpers, even though he hit that buzzer beater 3 the other night. That might be worse because that means he's going to shoot more of them because his confidence is going to go up. And they got Brandon Jennings, who I'm not that big of a Brandon Jennings fan, but they got something out there in Detroit. I definitely think they're a playoff team. If nothing else, they're a playoff team at least, with Chauncey Billups as a veteran leader guy. I think they're a playoff team. I think they could get that 5 seed if they play really well, don't have any injuries. I see Detroit making it, and who else is in the East? I mean, does it even matter? Yeah, the Atlanta Hawks will make it, and I think the last team, maybe the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, it don't even matter. I don't even want to talk about the rest of the East. Brooklyn, Pacers, Bulls, Heat. That's it. Playoffs, Final 4. I say the Spurs against the Clippers, and then we got the Bulls against the Heat. Let's take the easy series. The easier of the 2 to predict, it was going to be the one in the West. The Spurs against the Clippers. The Spurs kicked the Clippers' ass a couple years ago. They swept them. That was really because Greg Popovich just coached circles around Vinny Del Negro. Now this year with this new team, I still think the Clippers are in trouble with their current roster. I think they got to make a trade to get a big man who knows what he's doing defensively. Blake Griffin is not that guy, and DeAndre Jordan is not that guy. And DeAndre Jordan is terrible at the free throw line. He's got to sit on the bench at the end of games. They need a big man who can come in there and play at the end. If the Clippers had gotten Kevin Garnett this offseason, along with everything else they got, they've been able to make that Kevin Garnett trade for DeAndre and whatever other pieces they would have thrown in, they'd be my lock for the finals in the West, to come out of the West. But now, without him, Clippers have to make some trade, and they got to get a big guy. I think Omer Asich might be the guy for the Clippers. But who they're going to move to get him, I don't know. But they got to make some kind of move, because if they take their current roster and play the Spurs in a series, the Spurs going to kick their ass again just on the strength of their terrible backline defense. And a lot of their, like Jamal Crawford, who's a great offensive player. Clippers' offense is going to be great. Blake is great on offense. You got DeAndre. You got Dudley and Redick hitting the threes. You got Chris Paul. They got a hell of an offensive unit. But defensively, they got some question marks. Jamal Crawford can't play in crunch times. He's not good on D. Blake's not good on D, but he'll play because he's so good on offense. And DeAndre got to sit. So somebody got to play. They need to trade for somebody. Right now, the Spurs will beat them. I think the Spurs will come out of the West again with the rosters as currently constituted. And I'm recording this on Monday, October 28th. This is the day before the season starts. So if they make a trade, I think the Clippers can do something. I think they will make a trade because they're going to see that it's urgent right now. I think if Chris Paul and Doc Rivers make enough noise, they will trade somebody to get somebody to compete with the Spurs because they need it. That's coming out of the West to say the San Antonio Spurs again. So Duncan a year older, Kawhi Leonard stepping up, Tony Parker still an MVP candidate. Ginobili was looking really shaky last year in the playoffs. I think he's on his last legs, but with Tony and Kawhi doing their thing, he don't have to carry them. Eastern Conference, oh my. Bulls against the Heat is going to be a fucking bloodbath. I'm looking forward to this opening night game because this is what the Heat then won 2 titles in a row. No, LeBron has been anointed as the man. Everybody agrees he's the best player. The Bulls hate them. The Heat don't really like the Bulls. You know how physical that series got with Heinrich basically tackling LeBron in that regular season game, or was that the playoff game? I don't remember. Last year, and Nazi Muhammad getting thrown out for pushing LeBron. LeBron flopped when he pushed him. But the Bulls and Heat don't like each other. Joakim Noah, who's a guy, he's like one of those guys that he's like a disruptor. He's one of them dudes you hate playing against, but you love having on your team. That dude plays with heart every night. I fuck with Joakim Noah. Jimmy Butler making another step up. Luol Deng is back. He missed the series last year. Of course, Thibodeau, the coach. The Heat at home, they get in their rings. The Bulls coming in there. Derrick Rose, of course, he's going to look to make a statement. He ain't got nobody who can really guard him except for LeBron James. They don't want LeBron on him all game because that'll run LeBron ragged, but he might end up doing it. That's going to be a bloodbath. Not only opening night, but they're going to meet in the playoffs. If everybody stays healthy, all the principals stay healthy, they will meet in the conference finals. and man, that's gonna be must-see TV. But I have to go with the best player. When in doubt, you got to pick whoever the best player is in the series. And there is no doubt in the West right now. I think Chris Paul is better than everybody on the Spurs, but the Spurs is just a better team. I'm not in doubt. There's no question there. The Heat and the Bulls, I think the Bulls are very, very motivated, and the Heat might have lost just a little bit of motivation winning these last 2 titles, but LeBron James is the best player in the world. So if I got to go between Derrick Rose's team and LeBron James' team, I'm going with LeBron. I say the Heat and the Spurs again. Heat and the Spurs again in the finals. I didn't even predict that was going to happen. I didn't think this out before I did the video. I'm just doing it right now. Heat and the Spurs again. I'm going to go with the Heat. LeBron James, 4 finals in a row, win 3 championships. Oh yeah, this year's awards. I might do a separate video for these, but this year's award, MVP, LeBron James again. I think I'm gonna stop it there. I might do separate videos for other categories this season. Whatever y'all want to. If y'all want to hear me talk about something else, let me know in the comments.
Dre Baldwin, strong.
You're like a model.
Like that name, Philadelphia.
Punch card.
That guy's almost too ripped.
Right.